I ran over my bike. And that stuff keeps your skills sharp, but it's not very good for fitness. It's called the only eat healthy food diet. Yeah, that's a crazy idea. I mean, who's making money on YouTube? I can do this full time, which is a mixture of all the things I love doing most. I don't want to see the bike industry get too big. Anybody in the world who's coming to Squamish for the first time, I envy them.
Seth, how are you doing?
Very good. Very good.
How was this ride yesterday?
Oh, that was one for the books, for sure.
So we're going to talk about that. But first, when we met for coffee this morning, you told me you were going to tell me a story, but you didn't finish.
It's a very, very short story. So as you know, I've had some problems with transportation while I'm here. I'm staying in Whistler. I'm coming down to Squamish. And so I'm borrowing a pickup truck. So I'm being like super careful with it. And all I'm thinking about is being careful with this pickup truck. So like I have all my stuff in a bag so that I don't have like smelly clothes in there. I put it down in the seat. I get in. I start pulling out of the parking garage. I put it in drive and I feel the front wheel go up on something. It's like boom, and now it's up, and I'm like, what could that possibly be? Is that my helmet? What is that? I look next to me, the helmet's there. I put it in reverse. I back down, and it goes boom. I go outside, and my bike is still on the ground right in front of the pickup truck. My Pivot Trail Cat.
So did you?
I ran over my bike. So, so I have a clip of it. I'll give you that. You can still see the tire mark on my rim and my wheel. You can see like where sealant started to come out the other side, and you can see some little scrapes on the rim and tire. I got on it and I rode up and down the parking garage, dead straight. Everything's perfect. So like I escaped with no problems, but that's like my boneheaded move of the day.
So that reminds me of one day riding with Johan Bailey. I've never personally ridden on my own bike or anyone else's bike.
Yeah.
So Johan comes and meet me. At the time, I used to live in Whistler in Creekside. Pulls into my driveway, and there's a bunch of cars, and there's the neighbors, and they're going out riding, and there's a bike on the way. And I point Johan where he should park, thinking that it's very obvious there is a bike on the way on the driveway. And he's like, cool. And he goes to park, and I realize he hasn't seen the bike, and basically drives over the bike. And in classic Johan fashion, when he realizes, starts laughing. Me, I'd be panicking and be like, crap, I just, destroyed someone's bike. It's going to cost, $5,000. Johan starts laughing. And the owner of the bike was there and was visibly upset. And I think he was even more upset that he could see Johan laughing.
Right.
Of course, Johan ended up fixing everything.
Yeah.
But Johan's reaction is something I'll never forget. I'm like, how can you do such a mistake that's going to be very expensive to fix and be completely chill about it? But anyway.
He's cut from a different cloth.
Yeah.
But I wonder how many people have a run over a bike story.
More than you think. My dad, I was very young, so I only remember what my parents told me. He did a little race in the south of France, and the bike was on top of the car. And classic goes to pull in the underground parking. My mom opens the garage, then walks towards the other garage, doesn't pay attention, and my dad, tired from his race, just goes straight into the top of the garage wall and
I've done it.
Basically destroys the bike.
Yeah.
But anyway, so why did you come here? Why did you come to BC?
So the plan was always to come here with my family. And so I had booked, because my wife and I come here many times, especially to Whistler, and we even brought our dog and everything. And we booked a place right in Olympic Plaza in Whistler. So we were going to be right by the playground, right by the grocery store. I have my son's turning 2 in July. My daughter's 4. So, we're not going to be necessarily taking them to the downhill park, right? We just decided a few weeks before that my son is just too young. to do it because the trip home is going to be a disaster. We're at the phase where the kids are licking windows and getting sick constantly. And she said, you know what? It's going to be your 40th birthday during this time. Just go by yourself, come back with a bunch of videos. I'll be fine. So she really did me a solid. I came here and immediately everything fell apart. Even by myself, everything fell apart because I noticed I was kind of sick the morning of. I got here and I was feeling really sick. So I'm getting off the plane. I'm like, all right, I'm going to have to figure out how to address this and still make videos. I went to the rental car place. She says, hey, your license is going to be expiring in 3 days. You're renting the car for 9 days. And so you would have to return it by June 12th. And I said, all right, well, that's not going to work for me. Drive all the way back to Vancouver and be totally stranded, right? So,
Yeah, because this is June 17th.
June 17th, yeah, my license is expired, right? So, I could renew it. So I'm like, I can renew my license online. And she's like, yeah, but are they going to send you a license? It's like, yeah, 20 days they'll send you the license. So I have a paper copy. Everything's renewed. I'm in the system, but they want to see that photo ID with the expiration date. So I took an Uber from the rental car place because I could have taken a shuttle back to the airport, tried to book a Whistler shuttle. I would have lost half a day. So I just booked an Uber to Squamish. Wasn't as much as you might think it would be, actually.
How much was it, actually?
It was 110 Canadian dollars.
It's really not bad. No,
it's not bad.
I would have guessed much more than this.
Yeah, maybe I just caught it at just perfect time.
It's like an hour 20 drive. So if it's based on time, it's actually not that. No, it's actually not that bad.
No, it's not that bad. And actually, the shuttle, once you add the bike, is like it's not even that much less than that. And so I took an Uber to Squamish to my Airbnb. I get into my Airbnb, which was very small because it was just going to be me. Very nice too, like perfectly renovated, no ventilation. And when I say no ventilation, I mean the only ventilation was the front door and all the other windows were fixed. There was no way to open them up.
Wow.
And it was hot. It was hot that week. So I'm sick. I'm like laying in this bed up in the loft at the top. I'm like, oh my God. And they're like, yeah, we have an air conditioner in the bike storage room that you can use. I'm like, that you have an air conditioner in there. So it's one of those roll around air conditioners and still has the plastic on it. Never been used before. And if you know anything about physics, you know that there's heat out one end and an equal amount of cold air out the other end. And so it does nothing inside the place unless you have an actual duct hooked up. And of course, there's no duct hooked up. So I was just screwed. So didn't get much sleep, was like very uncomfortable. And I'm like, all right, I gotta get out of here. So I started looking for other places in Squamish and there's not a lot of lodging in Squamish.
There is nothing. Squamish, so Whistler is a resort town. So obviously they've got a bunch of Airbnbs, ton of hotels. But Squamish is not a resort town.
No.
And actually it was never supposed to be this popular for tourism because people would go from Vancouver straight to Whistler. When I first came to Canada, I was told that Squamish is a place where you just stop for coffee, gas, and to buy your lift pass because it's cheaper than if you buy it in Whistler. But it's changed a lot over the past 5, 8 to even 10 years. And yeah, there is not many places for tourists to come and find lodging. Very, very few Airbnbs. There's one decent hotel. That's about it. So a lot of people end up staying in Whistler for that reason.
Would you say that that's smart on Squamish's part?
Well, it's to protect, the locals.
Yeah.
In a way, which obviously makes sense. At the same time, it's such a tourist destination now, and so many business rely on that economy at the same time that we need to find a way to lodge these people.
The happy medium. Yeah, it's sad to see what has happened to certain towns that were never meant to be completely taken over by tourists. And when it's completely unchecked, you see, okay, they close one elementary school, they close the next elementary school, and the next thing you know, nobody lives there. And residents that have been there for years have been priced out. And so I'm honestly happy to see Squamish protecting things for the locals like that, because I'd like to see it retain its charm, you know? Whistler has a ton of lodging. Yes, it's an additional 45 minutes north, but that's completely unchecked tourism. It is a resort municipality. And so I was able to find places in Whistler, just like I was spoiled for choice, and they were a fraction of the price as Squamish. And it's less crowded and it's less expensive.
It's offer and demand, right?
Yeah, so there's a crazy supply in Whistler. So I booked an entire townhouse in Whistler for the same as I was paying for that loft. Alexander's staying with me. He lent me his van for a few days in order to get up there and do what I had to do. As much as it sounds awesome to bike everywhere, when you're trying to meet deadlines and make videos and haul equipment around and like move 2 bikes around, you kind of need a vehicle. And so borrowed Alexander's van. At some point, his radiator went. I started smelling antifreeze. I didn't see anything leaking. When I got it back to him, he's like, dude, there's antifreeze everywhere. If somebody borrowed my vehicle and they returned it with something not working, I would kind of expect them to be responsible for that. And so I bought Alex a new radiator. So I'm out the rental car fees. They still haven't given me my money back. An entire radiator. And now somebody else lent me a vehicle, that pickup truck. Huge lifesaver. Because of course I can't rent it because of the license thing. And so I've been extremely, extremely careful with that vehicle, to the point where I actually ran over my bike because I was so focused on being careful with the vehicle. But
well, the bike is yours at least. So.
The bike is mine, and I'm better now. I saw this doctor in Squamish, this Australian guy, and he's like, "Oh, you all right, mate?" And he gave me these. He gave me like a respiratory steroid and a nasal steroid. Like he just like hit it with a ton of bricks and knocked it right out in 2 days. So I'm back in business. But and I asked him, I'm like, am I contagious? He's like, "Oh, it'll be all right. So don't spit in anybody's mouth or share a sleeping bag." I'm like, all right.
Classic Ozzy.
Yeah. So it's been a wild ride.
You seemed in shape yesterday when we went on that ride.
Yeah, I felt good.
So yesterday was your first time riding in Squamish, which completely blows my mind, how someone as successful as you that makes video for a living went to basically every place you can think of for mountain biking in North America, except the actual Mecca, which is Squamish.
So a lot of it comes down to the fact that the reason that I've been successful is because I'm always meeting deadlines. And when I go someplace, I'm not like, "Oh, okay, I'm going to take a couple of days just riding, enjoying myself." And I just feel like I'm so privileged to be able to do it. I have to deliver, and I have to come home with exactly what I planned for. And so sometimes out of convenience, I'll stay in the place I'm shooting. And it's historically been a little more difficult to do that in Squamish. And you have to work out more logistics to get around, and you need somebody to show you where everything is. And I have just ended up going for Whistler because it's like, if you're a mountain biker, you think everybody has heard of Squamish, and you think that you could just throw around the word Squamish and everybody's gonna know what you're talking about. The truth is, nobody's heard of Squamish. And even when I had plans to go here, I'd be riding with a couple of friends and be like, "Oh, you're going away soon, right?" Like, yeah, I'm gonna be in Squamish. They're like, "Oh, cool, is the riding good there?" Nobody has any idea what...
It's funny, yeah.
Yeah, most people don't.
Because when we live here, we truly believe that this is a place. And for core mountain bikers, anyone that follows World Cups and your World Series, that, follows like free riding really closely, I feel like people know Squamish. But
yes,
this is actually a fraction of mountain biker. And we'll talk about that later, because your audience is obviously very large. And you get all the way from someone that's going to buy their first Walmart bike, their first $400 bike, to someone that's been riding for 20 years and goes to Moab, Sedona, Squamish, all those places.
Right.
But really the core riders know well Squamish. But someone that just got into mountain biking in Europe, in Australia, Mexico, might not know what Squamish is.
No.
But Whistler, though,
Whistler, they do. And so when I have Whistler because Whistler is a resort destination not only for skiers and mountain bikers, but also just rich people who want to have access to nice restaurants and cool scenery. And so a lot of people have heard of Whistler. And so when I put Whistler in the title of a video, it does really well. In fact, I was trying to come up with titles for the video Riding With You, and one of the ones that I had come up with was I left Whistler to ride here, because that's going to get a lot more clicks than I had an epic ride in Squamish. And especially with my audience, you got to know your audience. So yeah, I'd originally planned to stay there, to stay here in Squamish, ended up being in Whistler, and went right back to what I've done every single time I've come here. And the main reason that I haven't ridden in Squamish is because there's some kind of logistical issue, or I'm on a deadline to get these videos done and I don't have time to go do this. And when I know I have a video in the bag, it's hard for me to veer off of that and do something risky. But I was fairly sure that, especially with you guiding and especially with everything I know now about making videos, I could do something in Squamish. I would just have the right title and hook to make that happen. And maybe I should take a little bit more time to enjoy myself and just explore, but I don't. I just don't. And especially with kids and just the whole family at home, I'm trying to get everything done and get home when I said I was going to, with what I said I was going to keep the machine running. You know, I have people working for me.
And so that's my next question, because people ask me that all the time. It's like, do you ever ride for fun? So do you ever just go and ride your bike, no cameras, just for fun?
Sometimes. So it's very rare these days, especially with kids. Since I broke my ankle, which was in I think 2020 or 2021, things have really changed, because I went immediately into not being able to walk for 6 months, to having my first child, to having my second child, and also adapting to some big changes on YouTube. You know, I mean, you saw tons of YouTube creators quitting, and because their numbers were going into a tailspin, they didn't know what to do about it. I was dealing with the same thing. And through all of that, I was just working myself inside out with a huge diminishing return. And now that my son is going on 2, and my daughter's at 4, and I've got YouTube completely under control, I have been going out on Friday mornings with a friend, super early. We do a nice big loop, and I come home. So I've been able to go on more rides just for myself. Now, with that said, I get to ride when I'm shooting, which is kind of nice. A lot of it's like hiking up a trail and setting up a camera. There's a producer following me with a camera. And so it's not like going on a ride by yourself when you have nothing to worry about, but I still get to keep my skills sharp and actually push myself oftentimes, because I'm trying the same feature over and over again to get it right, or to get the angle right. And that stuff keeps your skills sharp, but it's not very good for fitness, and it's not very good for the soul. But from a strength standpoint, I am hiking up and down trails over and over again. If I do a loop around a mountain bike trail, not only am I doing the loop, but I'm also hiking up and down with gear 10 times.
It's a different type of fitness.
It's a different type of fitness. And so when it comes to kind of raw power or pulling for something, I'm really good. But from a cardio perspective, I don't get all that much of it.
I'm exactly the same. I can hike up in and out, which we checked out yesterday, hundreds of times in the day. I've done more hikes on Guranga, especially difficult hikes, bike on the back where you have to use your hands, and pretty more than anyone else. But truth is, I don't actually pedal. I don't do big days where I'm just pedaling. But a day like yesterday, we went out at 10. We had an hour break for lunch, and we came back at 7 p.m.
Yeah.
And all of this was actually, pushing the bike up and down, bits of pedaling in the middle. So still physical day, but it's not those cardio days where you keep your heart rate in zone 2 the entire time.
Yes. Cardio has always been a big challenge for me, especially because I grew up with asthma. And over the past couple of years, Well, actually, it's really been over the last year. I changed my just lifestyle habits completely in terms of what I eat. And now I have no problem riding all day, even climbing all day.
I've noticed that, like I've seen you before. We met in person. We met a few times, but Bentonville was the last time I'd seen you before, 2023, I believe.
Probably,
so
yeah.
a couple years ago. And you seem way fitter than I remembered it.
Thanks. Yeah, I am.
So, what did you change in terms of food?
It's called the only eat healthy food diet.
Okay.
You just, if it's got garbage in it, you don't eat it.
Because yesterday I asked you, what do you want for lunch? And you were like, oh, I eat healthy. I was like, perfect. Because I struggle with food. I love food so much, and I eat very healthy, but I also eat everything. And if you wanted a greasy burger, like I will not want one, but if that's what you want and we're going to go get one, I'm also going to go get one, even though I don't want to eat it because I want to eat healthy. So thank you for having good influence.
Yeah, it's pretty easy now because like I'm allergic to shellfish, for example. I love shellfish, but I'm allergic to it. And so if somebody said, hey, let's go out for lobster, I say, I'm allergic to it. And when it comes to unhealthy food, like you want a slice of cake, I'm like, yeah, I'm allergic to that. If I eat that, it's going to make me feel like garbage. It's going to make me not be able to climb. It's going to make me gain weight. It's going to throw off all my numbers and stuff. You know, it's, and so I just regard it like that. And food is an addiction, right? Like,
tell me about it.
But there's some crazy percentage of people that lose weight, and then it's like 98% of, I don't have the number off the top of my head, but it's something really discouraging, all gain it back within a certain amount of years because it's hardwired into our DNA to eat as many calories as possible because when we were hunter-gatherers, you're lucky if you got enough calories in a day. And so you're just like your dog is never not hungry.
Especially mine.
Yeah. You're hardwired to just always want to eat stuff and to eat the most calorie dense stuff possible. And so if you know anything about addiction, whether it be alcoholism or somebody who's addicted to opiates or whatever, you never run into somebody who was once an addict and is now clean. And they say, yeah, I just started using heroin in moderation. Yeah, I only do it on the weekends now. You never hear that. You hear they stopped completely. And so for me, the only thing that works with food is I just don't eat that stuff anymore. I have to decide that's not going to be a part of my life.
It's easier to completely quit.
Yes.
On some things and just reduce it.
Yes.
I experience that with food.
Yeah.
With a lot of type of food. But I love food.
I hear
it brings me a lot of fun, especially after a big day like we did yesterday.
Yeah.
So that was your first time in Squamish, and I made a mission to absolutely blow your mind and to make you regret the past 10 years of coming to Whistler and not Squamish. I mean, I was like you. Well, I used to be in Whistler all the time, and why would I drive to go to Squamish when I live in Whistler? But we did a pretty epic lap. Can you tell us a little bit about it? That video is going to come out probably shortly after the podcast. But yeah, what can you tell us?
So first of all, I don't regret not coming to Squamish because I did get to do a lot of awesome rides and heli drops and all sorts of stuff. And also, like anybody in the world who's coming to Squamish for the first time, I envy them. To be able to see all that stuff for the first time is the most exciting it's ever going to be, right? After that, you're seeing it again, which is not as exciting. And so yesterday was an awesome day that I've been waiting for a long time, and it Squamish delivered for sure. We started off on some loamers, which I've been on loamers before, and they're just, I always just laugh when I'm going down loamers because they're so steep, and you're like, how does it work? There's a catch berm, and I'm just constantly asking myself, like, how does this even work? How is it this steep and we can just ride down it? I was just having so much fun. I couldn't even find the words for it at the time. And you can kind of hear it in my point of view footage for
yeah,
sure.
following you, I could. Yeah, I was like, he's having a good time.
A really, really good time. So we kicked it off with that. The energy was really high, and you said, okay, we're going to come up to some jumps. And I should have known, they're going to be proper doubles out in the middle of the woods. And I've really dialed back my risk in recent years. I used to just throw caution to the wind. I'm like, yeah, I've done jumps before. All right, let's hit these jumps. And now, especially with the injury and especially with several other little injuries that were completely preventable, having kids, it affects more people now. Like you saw that label that I keep on the back of my phone. Getting hurt ends up affecting not just me. And so I just looked at the jumps and I'm like, I'm not going to ride those. There's no way. And then I guess everybody will have to watch the video to find out what actually happens. But throughout the day, you continually help me manage risk on some very risky features and think it through and plan the line and approach it in a really safe way. And when somebody gets to your level, or another great example is Eric Porter, who has 2 sons. And so not only has he been doing it his whole life, but he's also trying to manage their risk. You see that you can do things that are risky in the safest way possible.
Yeah.
I think you do a really good job of that in your videos. You've had your share of times where it didn't work out, but you've also walked away from things that just didn't feel right. And I think that's a good example to set, because in the past, I've ended up doing some stupid stuff. And it's not always on the biggest, gnarliest stuff. Oftentimes, it's just because I wasn't thinking, or because I'm in a rush and I want to get a shot before the end of the day and I'm under pressure to get something done. There was a video I wanted to do at Whistler this year that I decided not to do because it was going to put me under pressure to progress in a certain way. And I want that to be off camera on my terms, not on camera.
Because if it's on camera, you're like, I have to do it because I've planned that scenario, and if I don't do it, it's not gonna work. Then it's an entire day lost. And
yes, great example. That Walmart bike that I built with the 100 millimeters of travel and all the $6,000 worth of parts. I was originally going to bring that to Whistler. I started talking it over with Dan, my communications manager. I'm like, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to bring it because, and I'm so glad I didn't, because I had to take an Uber from Vancouver all the way to Whistler. And I was towing all this gear with me. But I thought, okay, it's going to be a huge pain to bring this bike with me.
It's going to traveling with 2 bikes
and the rest of your clothes and camera gear. Yeah. I'm going to bring this bike with me. It's going to be a huge pain. It's going to be expensive. And I'm okay with all that. But now, because of that, I'm going to feel really, really pressured for it not to be for nothing. And no matter what, I'm going up to Garbo with this thing and dropping in on a 115 millimeter Walmart bike. And is it going to be fine? Probably. But is that really a risk that's going to be worth it for something so stupid? And so I decided that's probably not a good idea. And Matt Dennison actually has the same bike. And so I was asking him if we want to do it together. He was smart enough to just be like, dude, I'm not doing that. He's like, honestly, I'm worried the rear end's going to snap off or something.
That's a pretty valid concern, I would say.
Yeah.
That's a pretty valid concern.
Yeah. Given what I've done with it already, I'm pretty sure it's going to be fine.
It's fine until it is that.
Making a strong bike is actually not that hard. You can just throw aluminum at it until it's strong. And when you're not trying to make it light, you can do that. And I actually have a new link on it, which is machined aluminum. Not that that would necessarily be the failure point. Probably the little bolts to hold the link on would be. But it's still not worth the risk. It's not like they've tested that bike the way that they test one of your bikes, And so it's a good example of the type of risk management that I'm better at now than I was when I was, younger and less experienced and probably with a little more testosterone. Now I'm like, it's not worth it.
More calculated. I think we are all, as we get older, more calculated. So talking about when you were younger, I've noticed with your riding, so like you like to be super playful on your bike. You run your brakes really steep, which make me think that you've got a bit of a BMX background. Obviously, we've talked about it, but how did you get into BMX and then mountain biking?
So as far as BMX goes, it's something that kids did in the late 90s and early 2000s a lot, probably to an even greater extent than now. Everybody I knew had a BMX. Nobody was into mountain biking. To me, mountain biking was something you just did. I couldn't understand why somebody would own a road bike. I didn't understand that until later on in life.
Yeah.
Like, why would you have a road bike? You can ride a mountain bike on the road. But, I'd go mountain biking with my dad. We had mountain bike trails on Long Island, New York. They were nothing like these, but, I would find stuff to ride off of and everything. I'd always treat my mountain bike like a BMX. But I had a BMX bike and I got really into it. And it's not racing BMX. I've never been on a BMX track. This was street. We didn't even have a skate park at first.
Stairs,
rails, staircases. I mean, roof gaps. I mean, we were just, we were bloodthirsty, and it was an era where safety was not held in as high a regard as it is now. Like, there's this safety culture now that we didn't have. Nowadays, like, Fabio Wibmer rides on this railing, like with a dam on one side of him. And the top, 100 comments are like, that's irresponsible. I can't believe you would do that. This is high level stupid. Back when I was a kid, if somebody did that, I mean, they would just be getting high fives left and right. I mean, it's like, that was gnarly. That was awesome. That was,
Well, with the progression of sports and extreme sports, unfortunately, but it goes with it, there is a greater number of injuries, life-changing injuries.
Yes.
So we see and we hear of more of those permanent injuries. And so it becomes more normal to get injured at that level, sadly. More people get aware of it, and therefore that makes everybody think like, hey, what you're doing could lead you to, end up on a wheelchair. And I feel like at this point, same when I grew up, I didn't really know anyone that had suffered of a spinal cord injury. Unfortunately now, I know a lot of people. And so, I feel like the risk now is definitely a concern for everybody. And I made a mission from all my videos to keep pushing the riding, but really educate people on how you limit that risk, even though you can't remove it. You can limit it.
You can manage it.
You can manage it.
You can manage it. You can minimize it. And back then it was, it was a little different. And so that's how I grew up. And we were always looking for a bigger staircase to jump off of, or cap into the bottom part of the staircase and firecracker down it, just ride down the steps on 20-inch wheels. And BMX bikes, of course, do not have suspension. You pump the tires up to 60 or 90 PSI. They have steep head tube angles. Like, everything about a BMX feels completely different than a mountain bike.
Yeah.
And some old habits die hard. There was a lot of the time where I was kind of mountain biking more seriously, where I just hold on to the bars. And then when I needed my brake, then I would reach out. And I got sick and tired of people, watching the footage and seeing that and telling me, you're doing it wrong, that I started grabbing onto my brakes. And sometimes I'm like, this doesn't feel right. I want to just grab the bars. Old habits die hard. And so when I'm going down a mountain bike trail, I just love the fact that you can treat it like the street. You can choose your line. You can be creative. You can decide what you want to do with the bike. And when I first started doing YouTube...
when was it, by the way?
That was 2015 when I started doing YouTube.
Okay, I thought it was a bit earlier, because I felt like I've known of you a bit later, but you were already very successful at it. So I assume you had started earlier than this.
It grew fast. I started doing YouTube in 2015, and there were certain things that I talked about in my videos and did that to the commenters was like mind blowing. Like riding street on a mountain bike, like just finding stuff to ride on, or sessioning something on the trail, like just taking the same obstacle and riding it multiple times in different ways and finding out different lines. They were like, oh, I never thought of doing that. And now it's obvious. Everybody talks about it. But back then, YouTube videos were almost always made by experts. And they put on their gloves and they show you how to work on the bike and they get everything perfectly. And they show you a skill and they're like, here's how you do it. And they had never, I guess at that point, seen somebody mountain biking the way that people actually mountain bike. And that's been replicated many times now, but it was actually a pretty new concept back there, at least in terms of YouTube content. Everything was shredded, or like I said, experts.
Because I feel like people, especially professional rider, will practice. Same as, they look at the line, try different ways, and that's how they progress. It just didn't show the behind the scenes. It just show you the final product, which is the jump itself.
Right. And
I did that myself.
Yeah, you have. Do you have a BMX background at all?
Not really, no.
It's all mountain biking.
As a kid, as you mentioned, I had a BMX. We'll go to skate park. I did a little bit there's a BMX track. Actually, it's called, like the town is Col-sur-Loup. It's on the French Riviera. That's actually where Loïc Bruni, Loris Vergier, Thibaut Daprela, and many more train. It is the family of Tim Bringer, or Tim Bringer in French, which actually won the last slopestyle of Crankwork. So his family owns that playground. And I did maybe a year of like BMX racing, but then I switched to doing it on a 26-inch bike.
Okay.
Just because, as you mentioned, a BMX is so different from a mountain bike. So
yes,
even on a BMX track, like doing a manual on a BMX to me didn't feel right, versus doing it with 26-inch wheels felt like I was more at home.
Sure. That BMX experience that I had when I was a kid, I think bled over into the channel. It made it a little bit different. It made it a little more casual and maybe even relatable to people. And it still sticks with me to this day. But one of the things that is tough for me is because I grew up with no travel and because I grew up with that instant response of a BMX bike, and that's what's like hardwired into my DNA at this point, I still like steepish head tube angles. I still like a bike that has less travel. I like a bike that's a little more responsive. And I've evolved. I used to like almost only ride hardtails. Now I probably prefer a full suspension bike most of the time. I can deal with a little more travel, but still, when I get onto an enduro bike, I just become a clown. Like I can't use it.
So how was it to ride that bike that I currently store at home? The famous green donut.
Oh my goodness, man. That thing.
It's like this long.
It's got over 1,400 millimeters wheelbase. I mean, it's just insane. When the funniest part is when you're going on the lift with it at Whistler, you hang it up and you're sitting in the other chair looking at it and there's 3 other bikes next to it. It's hanging like a foot below the other bikes. It's crazy. But riding it is an experience. Johan said it best. He said, it's not pleasant to ride. And I would say it's all business. It's just a machine that's designed for going fast, but it's like commercial grade, right? Like it's not for having fun on.
Yeah.
It's not playful. It's about as playful as like an aircraft carrier or something. It doesn't. You can see in my point of view footage, I'll see like a little trail gap. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna pop over this, and you just pull on it and nothing happens.
Yes, it's so long again.
Oh yeah, it doesn't want to respond, and so I'll case the gap, but it just plows through everything. It really does.
I'll be curious to do a lap on it.
It's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome. Like it shows you what happens if you actually push geometry that far, And it turns out it's fast. And there's no arguing with that. But I would prefer to be riding a more balanced bike on a day-to-day basis, for sure.
So I guess you'll do a YouTube video about that, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
But now I'd like to go back to 2015. So the decision to start making YouTube video, was it, I'm going to do something that's fun and entertaining for myself and my friends? Or did you see like a business opportunity?
Well, it definitely started with a little bit of a business opportunity, but I was mostly doing it for myself and my friends at the same time. I know that sounds weird, but I'll work you through the logic. Back in 2015, YouTube and the word YouTuber, YouTube creator, those were not household words. Yes, it was big. There were people doing it. But if you asked your 85-year-old grandmother, oh, I'm a YouTuber, she would have no idea what you're talking about. Fast forward to 2025, an 85-year-old grandmother knows what the word YouTuber means or what YouTube creator means. So that's where I was coming from. I had never logged into YouTube. I had never subscribed to someone. I never followed someone. I had no loyalty on YouTube. I would just go on YouTube and click something and see where it led me, just like everyone else.
Yeah.
And so I started posting the videos. Like my first video was a review on a D&M dropper post. It was my first dropper post I ever bought. They were starting to become more popular. And this one was at sort of an affordable price. And so I did a review on it and I put an affiliate link in there. And that was what I started doing because I thought, at the time I was building websites and I had some clients and some of them were doing affiliate marketing. And I thought, hey, I know how to make videos. Maybe I could do this and it could be fun. And then maybe over time I could build up some just, kind of my takes on certain products, and I'll say whether I like it or not. And if somebody wants to buy it, they can. And if they don't, maybe they'll click the link anyway and start buying something else, because that's something people don't know about affiliate links. Even if you torch the product and they click on it just to see what the price is or read about it, if they're on that website and they buy something else, you still get paid. So it always pays to just give an unfiltered opinion about whatever it is that you're reviewing. And I liked that. It just sounded really appealing to me. And so I started off with that product review, and that was the last product review I did for a long time because I got hooked on just making videos. I was addicted to the process of planning it and making it and editing it. I started getting people in the comments that would watch every one of my videos, and they'd be asking, when are you going to make the next one? Now I felt like I had a responsibility to them. And almost immediately, it became about creating the videos. I didn't even consider monetizing the channel because I didn't think it would add up to anything significant. I'm like, yeah, that's a crazy idea. I mean, who's making money on YouTube? It wasn't, back then, you didn't even know people were making money on YouTube. So I hit 10,000 subscribers very quickly. I think it was in my first year. And I'd blown past a whole bunch of other little mountain bike channels, and I applied for monetization. And my first month of monetization, I made like $360 or something like that. And I remember thinking, that's my car payment, like just knocked out. And I started extrapolating, like if I grow at the same rate and I continue doing this and I can do this many videos per week, at that time there were like 2-minute and 50-second videos I was doing, I could quit my job. I could do this full time, which is a mixture of all the things I love doing most, which is making videos, riding bicycles, trying to make people laugh. Like everything that I like doing was all bundled into one. And the numbers made sense. And I had known from just running my business, you have to trust the numbers. Sometimes it doesn't work out, but your best decisions based on the best data you have. And I made some kind of safe estimates. I'm like, I'm on my way. This is going to work. And so I started allocating more and more time to it. I didn't have kids. I was married, but I didn't have kids. And so I could pretty much spend as much time working as I wanted to. And I just ground and ground and ground until we decided to move to North Carolina. We needed to get away from the mosquitoes, and
So the time where were you located?
I was in Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
Okay.
I was doing it on my deck in my backyard. I was riding mostly street. I was riding the trails around there, which are surprisingly fun. And we bought our first house in Swananoa, North Carolina, and which is now decimated, but that's a different story. And one of the first things I started doing when I was there was building a workshop in my garage. And that just absolutely captivated people. Like, a biking channel is talking about building a workshop. Like, yeah, it's a bike workshop. And I'm going to do all these things to make it good for working on bikes and making videos about bikes. And converted this entire one-car garage into a workshop. And I realized, wow, people are interested in more than just the bicycle. They want the whole bicycle lifestyle. So I built a workshop there. I had this tiny, like, just preposterously small backyard, but it was on this steep slope. Yeah.
I remember that.
Berm Creek. And so I named it Berm Creek after Bent Creek, which is a riding area in downtown Asheville. It's like almost like you could call it the urban trails. And I started building trails there, like just cutting stupid lines into the grass. And I put up trail signs. I put up a trailhead kiosk, like made it like a real trail system, and made all the names clever and everything. And that just blew up. I mean, people loved it. There was not a jump on it. There was nothing gnarly. It was mostly like with just grass surrounding it. But I had the real fiberglass trail markers like they have in, U.S. national forests, the trailhead kiosk, and people just thought it was hilarious. And people started building backyard trails of their own, and inspired a lot of people. And then I started building more features back there, like dumb stuff, like the North Shore drop, the Sicknick table. There were all these different features, and people were just eating it up. They loved it.
What year was that?
That was 2016 through 17.
Okay.
So this was really short.
On.
Yeah, this progressed quickly. And at that point, I'm like, all right, I'm going to find an exit plan for my business. I was still taking calls from clients and stuff like during the day and dealing with all this stuff. And at this point, I'm like, all right, I'm making way more money on YouTube than I'm making on my business. And so I had a personal assistant at the time who knew how to provision, hosting accounts and manage everything. And so I transitioned, I gave her the business basically. I couldn't even sell the business because it was useless without me or her. So I transitioned my clients over to just working with her. I said, see you later. And I started doing YouTube full time. There were a lot of people in my life who were like, what's your backup plan? Is this really a smart thing to do? And I just had to trust the numbers and know that no matter what happens, I'm going to figure it out. And when I started doing it full time, I was able to devote not only all my time during the workday into it, but also all my mental energy over a 24-hour period and figure out the next thing I'm going to do. I was able to do it more systematically and analyze it a little bit more. And at that point, I was a full-time YouTube creator during a time where there weren't a lot of full-time YouTube creators, not like there are now. And it was uncharted.
It's still very new, yeah. I can't really remember I knew of people doing that full-time, but I feel like much later than you had already been doing it.
It's 2017.
Yeah.
And getting sponsorships and things with like bike companies was unheard of for a YouTube creator. Only racers did that. But Diamondback was willing to take a risk on me. They saw the value. They had some smart people working for them, and they trusted the numbers too. And it ended up being very good for them, and ended up being very good for me. It allowed me to, do it full time a lot sooner. Yeah, safety net and everything. And so I'll always remain grateful to Diamondback and the people that worked there that had trust in me to do that. because I don't know of any other deal like that prior to my deal with Diamondback. Now it's normal. YouTube, if you have numbers on YouTube or on Instagram, then you can get a bike sponsor, you can get a component sponsor, whatever. But back then, it was not common. And those were some real risks. And there were even some other people that I knew, some of them athletes, some of them creators, and they were like, yeah, I want to try and do the same thing. And I actually like shared the contracts that I had written up with them to try and make it happen. And I really think that was a completely different model that was sort of invented right then and there. And it was totally new territory for both me and for Diamondback. Right, they had to look over this contract and kind of make changes to it and be like, okay, what works for us? We didn't know how it was going to work out. We didn't know what it was going to look like.
Yeah, because a typical contract before then for a professional rider would be, okay, the brand is going to give the athlete X amount of bikes. The contract is typically 12 months or 24 months. Here's the salary, and here's a list of deliverables. And typically that will be, you have to do those 10 races you said you were going to do. You have to appear in 5 photo shoot days, 2 video shoot days. You have to promote the brands from like a professional manner through your social media. Even back then, there was not much. The deliverables were pretty vague in a way in terms of like social media and YouTube. It was more like use your community to promote the product. It was what was like strict was you have to do this race, you have to do this calendar of events, you have to show up at Sea Otter, you have to do a signing session at Crankworks, and that was it. But YouTube was very foreign.
Yeah.
Like there was no, we have to appear for X amount of time in X amount of videos, and we have one video where you're gonna present the new bike, and that other video where you're gonna do a comparison in between those 2 bikes that you have. All of this didn't exist at the time.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but almost any athlete contract now probably includes some language to the effect of, any post you make, you're tagging us this way. Like there's social media language in there that wasn't before. So if actual social media performance isn't a part of it, it's mentioned somewhere.
Yeah.
In every athlete contract.
Yeah, totally. And even if you're a racer.
Yeah.
I mean, you see like now professional racer, like even if they get paid to win World Cups, they still have to obey to a certain, social media presence and a certain way to make sure there is the best like return on investment for the brands paying for the World Cup season.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even like 2 riders that win the same amount of races are gonna get paid very differently based on their public appearance on social media. Whether, like personality, but obviously like numbers and how they present themselves and how many posts they do, how many engage they are with the community. That's got a huge impact on how much they're going to get paid, even if they win the same amount of races and have the same success across their career.
Sure. I mean,
which makes a ton of sense.
You walk around telling somebody to kick rocks and you have like a criminal record and stuff. It's, that now hurts you a lot more than it used to. You have to set an example. You have to present yourself well. And you have to have some ability to do social media now to do it for a living. You can still win races without any of that, but it might be way harder for you to make a living. That has changed. I remember at first there was more pushback from athletes like, oh, we win races and these people I remember, especially in the BMX industry, I don't know, some entire BMX team like quit because one YouTuber was sponsored by them. Like they all threatened to quit. But that was in the early days. Now anybody that's doing it is on YouTube or Instagram. Now we're all in the same boat.
I think everybody sees the value. Mm-hmm. Everybody in some extent wants to do it because there is a clear you clearly get paid more as a professional rider if you have that following. It makes a huge difference in terms of like your career, your stability. Also, because at some point you get injured, at some point you're going to slow down because you're no longer willing to take all those risks. If you have a following, reinventing yourself to keep your career going is significantly easier, and you can maintain those relationships you've worked on with brands. Whereas if you don't have any of that, it's going to be very difficult. So right now, I would say everybody wants to have a successful YouTube channel. But the truth is, it's very hard to do, and not everybody can do it. It takes planning. It takes a lot of time. Also, it takes money.
Oh yeah.
So it's easier to be successful at it when you're very good at your sport and you get paid already well by your sponsors, because maybe you don't have the time. Well, you can hire someone to follow you around at the races and make videos for you and edit them and do everything, post them for yourself. But it's much harder to do when you're like, up and coming, and you have to do everything yourself, including fixing your bike and booking your flights and stuff. If on top of that you have to do YouTube, then it's you're essentially doing 3 jobs at once.
It's very hard. It's a lot of work. But overall, it's a lot better for the people who are doing it, I believe. Because it used to be, you be a racer, unless you were at the highest level, you were living on the edge of existence. You could barely afford to, you were basically just bumming around from race to race. Even at some of the highest levels, people weren't really making a lot of money, which was insane. I mean, these are the people risking their lives. These are the people who are pushing the technology forward, giving these companies something to test. And they weren't really making the kind of money that would reflect that, especially when you look at their entire career arc. Because once they start getting a little bit older and they start taking less risks, or they've had their fair share of injuries, it's like you're going to go and work at a coffee shop, basically. Nothing wrong with that. But it's not racing. You're not doing the thing that you started to do. And so the people who had a little bit more business sense, sometimes they would start a company. Sometimes if they had a little bit more of an education or just good with numbers and words and stuff, they could work as a marketing manager or work for one of the bike companies. But many of them you never heard from again.
Well, especially since the sport is every sport nowadays is so competitive. But now you have to start so early, which means most likely you're going to sacrifice your studies.
Yes.
And your professional experience, which is very important. Like studies obviously gives you like some type of, it's basically a certificate that say, hey, I've studied, I know how to do this. But professional experience is also very important. And if you want to be a successful racer, you can't really get that professional experience other than riding your bike. And yes, you like managing your own little team and then growing up to being a successful team, but that's only very, very few people. Most people just do very, I guess, they do jobs that are very flexible. So they can, work in the winter, maybe just work the morning so they get to train the afternoon, and then they can travel all summer to the races. But that's most people.
And as a result, they're not building up this future for themselves. They're pouring all their young years into something that might not hold a future for them unless they're thinking outside the box. And like we had mentioned yesterday, like Nico and Aaron are both doing really smart stuff.
Neko Mulali and Aaron.
Yeah, they're so smart and thinking towards the future. Like, okay, where do we go from here? And people who are doing social media, they are giving brands a reason to continue supporting them long after their race career. If you look at Eric Porter, if you look at Hans Ray, I mean, right?
Hans Ray is probably the best example.
Hans Ray is like the best example because, I mean, everybody loves him, and brands still have a reason to support him. And that would have never been the case before.
Because he was at an era where I've met Hans Ray a few times, but I was told So the way you will pitch yourself to brand and project, you'll show up with a very professional deck with like, this is what I've done. Those are my numbers. This is how many impressions I have. This is how long my fan watch my videos. You got all that. Now all of us have it like moreover well done. But back in the day, in the 90s or early 2000s, you would show up and be like, look, I've done X amount of covers this year, this amount of article, I've appeared this amount of minutes on national television, and I've done all of that, which is similar because obviously back then social media, YouTube didn't exist. So you would have that same approach. And now he's had a career for 40 plus years, which is incredible.
Yeah, that wasn't possible before.
No.
And so I think that overall, the next generation of athletes, if they leverage social media the right way, they have a career that could outlive their best, years as athletes. Because a 45, 55, 65-year-old ex-athlete is still amazing on a bicycle, and they have so much knowledge to share and stories and insight. They can add so much value to a brand for so many different reasons. And like in my case, without any brands at all, and I've never raced or did anything. Never done any of it competitively. But yeah.
So talking about that, like I want to dive a little bit more on the YouTube side of things and how you work. So do you have any sponsors? Like, do you get paid by brands like a retainer for an entire year or a 2-year contract?
Not currently. I had dropped, by my decision, 2 of my sponsors, which is Box and Slime. I didn't want any component sponsors or anything, so I could review whatever products I want. And then all I had was Diamondback. That was working out great. Then kind of at the early onset of the bike apocalypse, when inventory was, they had to drop me as well as a bunch of other athletes. And I totally understood why. And so at that point I had no sponsors. And things kept working out, and I kind of liked having the freedom. And so since then, I've had no sponsors. Now, I've done like a single deal with Insta360 for some videos. I had this Unbikeable series that I did. I would do it again. I feel like cameras don't really interfere with anything that I want to be really impartial about. But being able to just get a load of weird products in and not ask anybody permission and not feel weird about it, it's just a freedom that I can't really give up. And because I don't necessarily need the income from those brands and I can just get by on views, it works for me. Now, would I do some kind of deal in the future? Yeah, absolutely. It makes the business more stable, and there's certain arrangements that can work really, really well and be beneficial to both me and my audience and to my business. It's not just me I'm looking out for. I have people who work for me.
So talking about, so who works for you? Like, what's your team like?
So I have a absolute full-time producer who edits and comes out and shoots with me. We've been working together for a long time, me and Curtis. And he'll be in my workshop. We have the office on the mezzanine. He'll be in there at 6 a.m. editing, Then I have another editor who maybe edits like 1 video a month, and he's out in Chattanooga. Rich he edits all the newer flip bike videos. I used to edit so much. I love editing. I miss editing. I still edit a video every once in a while because I feel like I'm the only one who can edit it. There's too much to talk about and to explain to an editor. But now I've offloaded my editing to Curtis and Rich. And that's saved a lot of time, and it's allowed me to spend more of my time on ideating, scripting, coming up with plans and all that. I have a variety of subcontractors that I deal with, and I also have a communications manager. Now, Daniel, my communications manager, has just massive amounts of knowledge in the bike industry and contacts, and he's really good with words and scheduling and keeping everything. So he handles a lot of the administrative burden. All the messages coming in. Hey, try and find me this. I need it by this time to make this video. He handles all that stuff. Oftentimes he handles travel plans. He didn't handle the travel plans this time.
This one.
He would have done a way better job than I did. And sometimes he'll even come with me, because when I'm on location doing something, there's all sorts of stuff I have to deal with. And he's more effective at it than me, and he can make sure that I can focus on the video. But that's pretty much my team. It's very small. Like, some brands we've spoken to have been astonished that it's that small of a team. And
because your numbers,
yeah,
like in the bike world, like, who competes with you? So there is, because you're a media basically.
Yeah.
You're a media.
Sure.
Like, you review products. You do a similar job to a company like Pink Bike that gets sent product. They test it. Obviously, they do paid partnership with some brands. They go to location, make a video about a subject. Other YouTube channel like Global Mountain Bike Network or Global Cycling Network. Sorry, Global Mountain Bike Network.
Yeah.
But your numbers are, huge. What is it, 2.8 million on your main channel?
For the subscribers?
Yeah.
I think that's right. Maybe it's, probably around 2.8, 2.6, something like that.
And then you get 2 other channels, the Spanish one?
Yeah.
And
there's a Spanish one. I don't know what we're at with that, but Burn Peak Express, which is like product reviews and dumb equipment tests, that channel is at over 1 million. Might even be 1.3 or something. I forgot what it is.
So like over 4 million in between those channels, which is huge. So you would expect someone like yourself to have a team of 10, 15 people.
Yeah, no, it's just us, and I'm the one that's writing all the content. But having the time freed up to do that has made us so much more efficient. I've had to adapt a lot over the years because YouTube changes, my own life changes. I have less hours, and I can only work a normal 40-hour work week now. I end up working at night, and it ends up being more. But I used to just be able to work 100 hours a week unimpeded, and I didn't have to be efficient. I could do it all by brute force. Now I need the help, and I need to be efficient, and that small team allows me to do it because they're all good people who are really, really, if you just hire 3 whatever people who are not really good at what they do, maybe that works in some situations. You're doing something that's not particularly skilled or of low consequence. If you have the very, very best people, you can get a lot done with just a few of them. And so being able to do that, and yeah, it's true, my numbers, if you look at my numbers over the course of a month, it's comparable to a big media outlet. They're per video, they're getting fewer numbers than me, but they're also posting a lot more content. They're posting articles, they're posting videos. And so it ends up being comparable. But each video is a lot more important for me because it has to perform.
Yeah.
I don't have sponsors. The video absolutely has to perform or my kids don't eat. Is
YouTube your only source of income then?
As of right now, yeah, my YouTube business. There are other parts of that YouTube business like merchandise, for example, but yeah, it's
but everything is linked. Your merchandise sales are gonna be
totally
much lower if the videos are not performing.
It's all part of the YouTube business. All that, whether it be merchandise or the book that I just wrote, it's all part of this. It's all under the same umbrella, and so each video has to perform or it doesn't work. It has to. So in the future, I will be willing to take on some sponsors that made sense, but not a bike company.
You could take something like, I know, so one of the video I've watched of you, I watched the entire thing, even though when I clicked on it, I had no interest whatsoever on the product, but it was, so you have that big garage and you bought off Amazon or whatever, I guess a second floor for your garage?
Yeah, mezzanine.
mezzanine, and I had no interest to buy anything similar. I had no interest to rearrange my garage, and yet watched the entire video and even clicked on the link of the product because I was just curious about it. So I feel like you could partner with something like Home Depot or, maybe Best Buy for video equipment. And that doesn't conflict with any of the products you are reviewing.
No.
Especially if it's a retailer, because then they sell a bunch of brands, right? So you can pick up.
And I'm such a sucker. I paid full retail for that mezzanine. I could have, tried to contact the company or something. And I do
sure
that
with
often.
affiliates, though, you made the money back.
People accuse me of being it's not that damning of an accusation. I mean, being sponsored is fine. But when I paid for something and I'm doing a video and being completely honest, it kind of pisses me off when somebody's like, oh, paid. Oh, that was a paid review. And it's like, no, it'd be kind of great if it was and I could get paid for this, but I bought the thing. The Walmart bike videos, like I did a video on the FS2 that I bought from Walmart. I said mostly bad things about it, actually. And somebody's like,
I looked at it yesterday.
Walmart paid for this? It's like, I guess you don't understand how paid stuff actually works, But if somebody pays for something, I disclose it. There's nothing wrong with it. That's how YouTube creators make money, right? And as long as they're not doing anything on the sly or trying to hide it, it's very ethical. And I think, in fact, when I'm watching a creator and I know that they have some solid sponsors, I'm like, great, they're going to stick around. They're going to be able to keep doing this.
Yeah, that's a good point. So we've chatted about your team. Now what's a week in your life looks like?
Well, I work a fairly normal week now. Yeah, I have kids. I get up, oftentimes I'm helping with breakfast and stuff. And then I try to get out to the office by 8 or 9. And I work till 4:30 or 5. Sometimes I have to push it till 6. And then after the kids are in bed, I'll usually go out and handle a few more things. Tidy up the workshop or work on some thumbnails or something like that. I do all the thumbnails. I'm the person who is behind Photoshop and taking the pictures and everything. I feel like it's just easier that way.
I've seen how much time you spend.
Yes.
And also, I mean, from hanging out with you, I've learned a ton. Like, you come up with a title and a thumbnail, at least the idea, or what you want as a thumbnail before you even start riding your bike.
Yes.
A few weeks ago, actually, you told me, so for that video in Squamish, like, here's my idea. The title will be this. And for photo, I'm going to need a photo that's going to look like this.
Yeah.
And that's basically what we did yesterday.
Yeah.
And was me, I'm, very beginner. My focus is riding. And then I'm like, okay, from the day, do I have anything that could be worth it for a thumbnail? And then I come up with a title after I've done the video, which is, I understand is, the wrong process.
It's doing it backwards, yeah.
I do it backwards. But yeah, so I understand now that you have to be in control of title, thumbnail, and script.
Because the first thing somebody's going to see is the title and the thumbnail. Well, they're going to see the thumbnail first. If the thumbnail is interesting enough, they're going to see what the title says. And then the video must be completely congruent with the title and thumbnail, or else they just feel like they were led astray. And that's really important because a long time ago, YouTube had to figure out how to serve videos. And so they said, this video is getting more clicks. Let's serve it more. This video is getting more views. Let's serve it more. And what started happening is everything became about thumbnails. And I'm sure any of us who are old enough and have watched YouTube, remember an era where you would click on a video with some outlandish claim and the video had absolutely nothing to do with it. And that's when the word clickbait started to become really popular. And YouTube is like, okay, we have a serious clickbait problem. This is bad. Like, it's like, and the most successful people on YouTube are just straight up lying because that's the incentive structure. And so they switched it from clicks to watch time. how long is somebody watching this video? And that fixed everything. Because now, if somebody clicks the video and 4 minutes in, they realize they're being duped, they're clicking off of it. We've all seen thousands of YouTube videos. And so we're hypersensitive to it as viewers. The viewers have changed. And so if your content is not completely congruent with the title and thumbnail, the watch time is going to be really low, and then YouTube is going to bury that under a mound of rubble. You'll never see that video again. And so you have to make a good video, you have to make it engaging, and the title and thumbnail has to accurately represent what that video is about. But you have to be extremely economical with words. So the title has to say so much in the shortest amount of words. It has to be something that's going to apply to, or is going to be understandable by the largest amount of people possible. And then the thumbnail you just have to keep removing elements from the thumbnail and only keep the important things.
Make it simple, clear, visible.
Yes. If there's a street sign in the video that has some words on it that are not relevant, you should crop it out. So that you should make the image a little smaller, so that's cropped out, so that there's not something else distracting. You have to remove as many elements from that thumbnail as possible and take the perfect picture that is going to illustrate what the video is about. If you can tell what the video is about without even reading the title, that's a great thumbnail. If the thumbnail makes you read the title, that's a great thumbnail. But the video is still the most important part, because if you have the worst thumbnail in the world, but you have an awesome video that really keeps people engaged and they watch for a long time, YouTube's just going to just shove it down people's throats until they watch it.
I've definitely noticed that with like documentaries. You know, sometimes the thumbnail is just a very simple image of scenery or something. Doesn't really say much, but yet the views are really high because the actual video is amazing. So the fewer people who click on the video watch the entire thing. And so therefore YouTube is just like pushing it because like, this is good stuff, you should watch it.
Yes. And so you should never think of a video as an idea for a video. You have to think of it as a holistic concept. This concept is something that, first of all, people are going to click on, and then you're going to be able to deliver on. So if you can deliver on something, but you can't get people to click it, it doesn't have that's a bad idea. Don't do it. But if it has all the ingredients, okay, now I can spend time and money on this because I know it's going to work. But I've had tons of video ideas that I thought were going to be great, but they weren't marketable. They weren't something that people are going to buy, so to speak. And so in recent years, if I go through my little checklist and it doesn't meet the criteria, I'm like, all right, I can't do that.
Yeah, because you want your return on investment, like your business. So depending, if you spend X amount on your video, you expect to make more from revenue behind an affiliate.
I have to.
What's roughly, like how much does a video roughly cost in average once you factor the salaries of your editor and community manager and the cost of making the video itself? Like I watched one of your videos, for example, yesterday. You built like a wooden, like an A-frame structure to jump. This obviously is not super expensive because it's just wood, but it's still,
I would say I'd have to kind of do some calculations to really I probably should know this, but I look at not only am I looking at revenue from each individual video, but old videos that have been up for years that are now going to get put in the suggested and everything. But it's an astonishingly small amount it takes me to produce a video when you consider how much it normally costs to produce a video. Like if you were to go to a video producer and say, you're out $60,000 right then and there. Like if you're going to do a high production video, I probably end up getting away with it for $4,000 to $5,000 per video, I would say.
Okay.
If you factor in my time and salaries and everything like that, like what it takes to feed the machine per video. That's just off the top of my head, though. Could be more, could be less.
Yeah. And obviously each video is different.
Yes.
This one, you've flown to Whistler, stayed in Whistler.
This one, the cost is a lot higher.
Exactly. The one, but it doesn't mean that they're gonna perform better also. Sometimes
No.
like simple videos that, sorry, I've got the dog barking at the same time. But sometimes videos that you do in your workshop that are done maybe more efficiently.
Yes.
You don't have to travel. You don't have to buy an expensive product. You actually
Sure.
just review something. It's $20. Might get a greater number of views and therefore better return on investment.
Absolutely. But then sometimes I'm sitting in my workshop just talking about something like press the valves, and I have to sit there 3 days doing research and writing a script and fact checking it. And then there's maybe a little bit more editing time and everything on that. And I have to, spend half a day trying to get a thumbnail together and, 10 different thumbnails and trying to choose between the one I'm going to use. That time gets factored in too. But yes, when there's traveling involved, when we're building something, when I'm buying some expensive, hubless Kickstarter bicycle, that ends up costing more for sure.
And right now, like, what's your schedule in terms of videos? Like, how many videos do you push out per month?
I'm putting out 1 video per week between both channels. So 1 week it'll be Burn Peak Express, the other one it'll be Burn Peak. For over a year, we've done that without missing a week. It's almost, about a year and a half now. We've been doing that. We've been sticking to that schedule. It's been working, and so I don't think it's going to change in the foreseeable future. That's a pace that I can stay at and
that
still
maintain, yeah.
Yeah. And then I can also get a couple of videos ahead so that I can take a week off with my family or whatever, or do something that I'm obligated to do. I'm really in the best spot I've ever been in terms of that. But the content has definitely shifted more towards almost like mini documentaries on things. There's definitely been less of the adventure. I'm going to have 3 adventure videos coming out of this trip, so that's nice. But I've had to change what I'm doing to make it like that. But that's what it looks like now. It looks like 1 video per month on each channel. The channels seem very similar, but they actually cater to slightly different audiences. Burn Peak Express skews younger. It's more about products and it's more about dumb equipment tests. So if I'm testing a Walmart bike, if I'm going to see what happens if I put slick tires on my mountain bike, that's Burn Peak Express.
Okay.
When there's something higher production, serious, more like a documentary or like a personal experience, that goes on the main channel, Burn Peak.
And that audience is a little bit older, more mature?
Slightly. Yeah, that one skews more like 25 to 45, and then Burn Peak, like almost equally 25 to 45, like that kind of area, the bell curve. And on Burn Peak Express, it's more like 18 to 25.
Okay.
So they seem to be more interested in the product reviews and kind of more silly tests. And it's important to make a different channel if you see that part of your audience, especially when it's part like a demographic like age group, when you see that part of your audience is only watching these videos and the other part of your audience is only watching these videos, you should split into a different channel, because YouTube is going to like it more if the same audience is watching everything on one channel as opposed to it's split. It makes it more confusing for the algorithm to do its work. And the algorithm is your best friend. It's completely predictable what it's going to do if you understand how it works. And you can work completely to your advantage if you know the things to do. And so you should work with it, not against it.
Yeah, that brings a point also, like those YouTube shorts that YouTube has been pushing, but at the same time, it's a different type of audience that watch the YouTube short versus the long form. So what's your take on that?
So I don't do a lot of YouTube shorts. I've had some success with it in the past, but I just choose not to spend my time on it. The subscribers you get from YouTube shorts are not going to come and watch your videos. Statistically, maybe a few of them will, but they are not going to come and watch your long form videos. You are getting a subscriber on YouTube Shorts who wants to see more YouTube Shorts. And so if I were going to get way into doing YouTube Shorts, I would honestly put it on a separate channel. I could care less how many subscribers I have. Like, subscribers don't matter at all. And we're even seeing now, there's a lot of YouTube creators in mountain biking where you see like their videos are getting like 25, 35,000 views, which is fine, but they have like 2 million subscribers. And you're like, why are they only getting 35,000 views? It's because those subscribers came from shorts. And so the subscriber number doesn't tell you the whole story like it used to. Because depending on where they're getting those subscribers from, they might not be watching actual YouTube videos. They might be watching shorts. That has a ton of value. But if it's not what you're trying, but if you have my business model where you're trying to make all your revenue from videos, they have to be long-term videos. And so I want all my subscribers to come from long-form videos, not from shorts.
Would you say that when you sell a video ID to a potential advertiser, would you say that brands see the difference? Like, would you say that brand understand it?
Oh yeah, a savvy brand will. Like a brand that really has a marketing team that really knows what they're doing. The brands that are doing it best, they understand the difference. And you can educate them on it too. But some brands don't know the difference. Some brands are just throwing money at stuff and they just want to see numbers. And that's part of the reason I don't like playing that game. I'd rather just make videos that are really good, but that might not always be possible. And so depending on what your strategy is for your business, you might want to seek out brands that are using the same strategy themselves. Like if you see that they're sponsoring a lot of YouTube creators, hey, that's important to know because they obviously see the value in that. They see that they're getting a better return on that.
Yep.
But there are a lot of YouTube consultants that just say, don't even do shorts. If you want to be a YouTube creator and you want to make YouTube videos, don't even do the shorts. And if you do the shorts, do them on a different channel.
Yeah. I had started another channel just for shorts. But then I was like, well, I'm not getting the benefits of the number of subscribers. So I shifted it and then realized that it can actually impact my numbers because as you mentioned, those subscribers from short don't actually watch the long form videos. So yeah, it's been a challenge. Earlier, we chatted on like titles and thumbnails, and now AI is, an important part of our lives. How much and how do you use AI to help you come up with tools to be successful on YouTube?
So what AI is particularly good at is taking a tremendous amount of information and narrowing it down. Like, I come up with a whole bunch of titles. I'm like, hey, here are the criteria for a good title. Rank these from 1 to 10. I'm like, okay. I just narrowed down the titles I did. Hey, can you suggest 10 more? Now, I have not yet to this day used a title that AI, actually, I used one title that AI generated and the video flopped. But it makes suggestions that make me think. It would make like 20 different title ideas. And I'm like, ooh, that's a good idea, but it can't be exactly like that. Or it'll say something that's kind of out of touch. Doesn't really use right mountain bike terminology or whatever. Or it sounds too cheesy or something. And I'll sort of go through those and I'm like, okay, I wanted to go in a different direction. Can you suggest more? And so with title ideation, it really, really helps me. And then I'll eventually come up with it. One place where I definitely don't use it at all is script writing. I feel like just like AI images have that AI image look,
yeah,
AI generated text has that AI generated text feel. And so I really like writing, and so I write all my scripts. But it's actually good at looking at thumbnails too. You can drag your thumbnail into it and be like, which of these two do you like the most? And it'll say, this one's less messy, it has fewer elements. You'll say, okay, well, is there anything I can do to it? And it comes out with some pretty good suggestions, honestly. But you have to train whatever large language model you're using to know what it's talking about. it has this context window, and you have to keep reminding it because here's something large language models love doing is placating you. You're like, hey, how do you like this title? That's the best title. You're like, okay, what about this one? Oh yeah, that one's way better. And you're like, are you just yesing me to death? Like, what is going on here? I need objective feedback. So you have to tell it things like, no stroking my ego. No,
just be honest.
Be
Give me a
completely
straight
objective.
answer.
Assume I have zero emotions. Like, tell me like you're trying to hurt my feelings. Like, you have to like beg it to. Yeah. And I'll put in criteria that I know are important for titles and thumbnails, and it can help me stay on track. So as long as you're using AI for the right things and you're not trying to like let it write your script for you or something, it's really, really beneficial. Especially when I'm doing the research videos and I keep pouring more information into it. Okay, can you summarize this for me? What was the reach on this thing again? Like, I'll put entire PDFs into it of like, 500 page PDF or whatever from SRAM or something.
I find like AI has been really good for me to just get answers to questions when I don't have the time to, go through a bunch of websites and be like, hey, give me just a quick summary. What does this product do? What is this product supposed to do? Or, like numbers, like where you have to, you have to go down a website and it's like, okay, where's technical data? And you click and it's like, okay, you look. Whereas you can just ask the questions like, hey, what's the shock length on this?
So great for that. But one thing I'll do is sometimes it'll answer a question and it won't provide a citation. And I'm like, for the entirety of this conversation, if I ask you any question, you must provide a citation. And if I click the link and it's broken, I know it's time to dig deeper and see. But I'm really paranoid about it not giving me the right information because it's done it before. It's given me like a quote that somebody said in an article, and that quote was never made.
It's, I think, ChatGPT at the start, I did a Google research and it had pretty much everything correct, but the birthday was off, which you would think is like pretty much the easiest thing to find. The birthday was off.
Yeah.
Of whoever I was looking for. And so, I learned to not trust it with 100%.
Yes. With what I noticed is like, hey, can you fact check this script? I realized really quick, like it's, there's problems there. It comes up with, it's like, this fact is incorrect. I'm like, but I never made that claim. So it's like coming up with false things that I didn't say so that it can then correct it. And then I find myself like getting pissed at it and reprimanding it. I'm like, why am I doing this? Why am I calling it an asshole? Like, it's, but it's funny. It's really, really, really good at certain things and it's really, really bad at other things. And as long as you use it for what it's good for and you realize that it can and will make mistakes, it's extraordinarily useful. Like I said, specifically when you have a tremendous amount of information that you need to dig through and make heads and tails.
I just get ideas like, sometimes it's like keywords you'll never think of. I'll be like, oh, that's a great word. I need to use that word.
Yes. Yeah. You can use it as your thesaurus. You can use it to find something that rhymes. You could use it for, you say, hey, give me an example of something that has a lot of red flags in it. Like a Russian military parade. Like, oh, okay. It's really good for thinking of things like that. But in the end, you have to be the curator. You have to be the one that puts it down on the paper. And as long as you know that, it can help you a lot, like almost like an assistant.
Yeah.
So
now, because we're a mountain bike podcast, jumping back to mountain biking, what do you think is something that's lacking in the bike industry? Because you've tested so many products, you see what customers, want or struggles that customer can have with products because you've tried basically every product out there. What is some things that the bike industry is not seeing that needs to be addressed, or I guess needs to be considered for future product?
That's an interesting question. I don't have anything off the top of my head. And if I did, I would start a business around it and not tell everybody about it.
That's a good.
But one thing, I don't want to see the bike industry get too big again. I don't want to see it get too bloated like it was. Because the problem we're having right now in the bike industry is that a lot of companies during the pandemic made a lot of their money by selling bikes. And you can't keep selling bikes to people. If you sell somebody a printer, they keep buying the ink from you. If you sell somebody a vacuum, they can buy the bags from you. But when you sell somebody a bike, they're buying derailleur hangers. That's pretty much it. And it creates perverse incentives. Like, hey, let's make something that's going to fail out of X amount of years. And I feel like mountain bikes are pretty dang good now, and people hang on to them for a really long time. And they have to reach for innovation. They have to...
And that costs a lot of money.
It costs a lot of money, and it makes the bikes more expensive. And I really want to see the bike companies that are out there find out ways to ethically continue making money off of their customers without making them sign up for some kind of useless subscription and without making parts that have to be engineered to fail. Because there has to be a way to keep these companies healthy and in business so that a career in the bike industry is viable and starting a bike company is viable. But still removing those perverse incentives, like allowing somebody to keep a bicycle for a long time and love it forever and continue riding it. And right now, because we had this big growth period where bike companies could continue selling more bikes, what do you do from there? How do you keep... And there's certain companies like Trek, for example, or Specialized, they've opened their own stores. Yeah, a lot of people don't like that because it's taking business away from bike shops. But at the same time, they are looking to the future and asking themselves, how are we going to continue making money when we've already sold more bikes than we could ever sell? Like, how do you keep making money by selling bikes? And you have to come up with a way to do that. And so I think any bike company that sees a future for itself is going to have to figure out what that part of the business model looks like. And I don't know what it is. I hate apps and subscriptions. I would hate having a bike with some kind of electronic thing on it that not only do I need an app for it, but if I want all the features, I have to pay a subscription. And that seems like the most obvious way to do it. I don't think I could fault a company for doing that, being that they're going to have to come up with some way to do it. But bike companies really have to start putting all of their resources into figuring out how they can have a business model that is not predicated on continually selling bikes over and over again. Because we're going to start to see, and we already are starting to see, innovations that don't need to be there. Innovation for the sake of innovation. Pretending like something's a big innovation that's really not. You can buy a bike from 2016, tune it up, and you can have a ton of fun on it. And we've proved that over and over again with the Flip Bike series. And while I want to see the bike industry thrive, I think the business model is going to need some tweaking if it is going to continue to do so in the future. Because we're seeing a lot of companies close down, fire their big portions of their staff, restructure, get bought out by VC. It's kind of a bloodbath right now. And the companies that have done well and have continued to be successful, like Canfield, for example, it is a company that doesn't spend more money than it needs to, operates really efficiently, and does one thing really well. Not every company can do that. There are some companies that have huge budgets for research and development, and they're trying to come up with new products, and the machine is too big to just be really small and efficient. And so they're going to have to figure out other ways to make money, and I don't know what it is. I really don't know what it is. Maybe experiences. Maybe they could get more involved in that.
Yeah. That's a good point. I think now what's changed a lot since, the last couple of years is that geometry of the bike have like settled down. I think we went to the extremes, but now bike companies have realized, okay, like a great trail bike should have roughly this geometry to ride well. Suspension design are gonna keep evolving, but now on a dirt bike, everybody uses the same system. Everybody pretty much uses the same geometry because it's
dirt bikes are solved.
Because that's what works, It works, so every brand is kind of on the same. And yeah, I feel like that's where the bike industry is, I guess, slowing down at least geometry number, which means that bikes can last longer as long as they're reliable, as long as, you can change the bearings easily and all that stuff. I feel like customers are going to be able to keep a bike that's going to stay up to date for a long time. Like geometry is definitely something that's, some bikes that wear like a lot of weight on the front, super close at tube angle, very short reach, our chain stays super short, bottom bracket too high. Once you experience a bike with, an up-to-date geometry, it's tough to go back to an older generation because you realize the difference in terms of performance. But I feel like now we've settled down on that and gonna be able to move forward, keep the bikes longer. Is there something we haven't chatted about that you want to develop?
I would love to talk about the children's book that I made with Christina Waite. She goes by Sketchy Trails. Probably one of the, if not the best mountain bike artists out there. And she's down in Bellingham. She did a lot of watercolor work and she's done some work for me. And last year I talked to her and I said, we should really try to make like an illustrated children's book. I'll come up with the words and you come up with the images and we'll see if it worked. And people are just loving this thing. We're selling so many of them. And even if you don't have kids, it's really cool to have on a coffee table. And even my son, who is not even 2 years old yet, one of the only words he can say is bike. Good. And before I put him, he's like, bike. And he's pointing at the book and he wants me to read it to him. And I'm really proud of it. It's not a major part of my income or anything, but it's cool to get out there. Like we wanted a children's book that with bicycles, Good Night Bikes is what it's called. We wanted a children's book with a subject matter being bicycles, mountain bikes, but we wanted the body positions to be correct. We wanted them to look like modern bikes. We wanted the trails to look like real mountain bike trails. When somebody's busting a manual or jumping over something, we want it to look real. And we wanted to do it in a way that real people actually do it. So Good Night Bikes follows a family who's doing an end-of-day ride. They finish up the trail. They ride on the greenway back to their house. They hose off all their bikes and they put them away and they put away all their gear and they say goodnight to the bikes. And the job that Christina did bringing that to life is just unbelievable.
When did that come out?
It's out.
No, but when did you release it?
So we released it right before the holidays as a paperback on Amazon. The hardcover is sold on Cognitive MTB, which is where all my merch is. And the hardcover is it's brilliant.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
So people can find it on your website and
yep.
Sounds good. Okay, we'll make sure we mention that.
Yeah.
Well, thanks a lot for having me. I know you have a deadline, but first we have to go on a bike ride.
We do.
So I'm going to take Seth for another epic lap. I think yesterday was pretty stoked. So we're going to do that again. Thanks for watching. As always, if you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe. Leave us a comment. Any question you got for Seth, make sure you post it down below and I'm sure he'll try to reply to it. And if you want to support the channel, as always, you can check out those links down below. When you make a purchase on Jensen, for example, using that link, that support a little bit the podcast. So thank you so much for that. See you next time.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks a lot, man. Really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's go ride.